Hello again, I am Blunty. Today's video is about human psychology. It's about how corporations manipulate human psychology. It's about horrible bad movies. It's about whether or not they make horrible bad movies on purpose just to manipulate you and make you into a fool and make you look stupid. And the kind of craziness that the world has become when it comes to our media, and why it doesn't matter anymore whether or not you actually like things. It just doesn't matter. And it's something of an outgrowth of what's happened here on this platform and most other social media kind of platforms and any kind of publishing platform really online. But, let's talk about movies first. And I came across an article this morning just as I'm blinking awake and scrolling through my various social media feeds and meme sites and stuff. And I came across a screenshot of this headline, and I had to look it up. I thought, is that a real headline? That's obviously just a meme, right? Someone made that up in Photoshop just for a laugh. No, it's a real headline. It's from CBR.com, who cover a bunch of media, TV shows and movies and whatnot. And it's from someone called Monica COMAN. And the headline reads, Madam Web becomes a big hit on Netflix after bombing in theaters. And that's just a lie. Except it's not a lie. It's absolutely true. It is a big hit. Double quotes. Big hit on Netflix. After bombing in theaters. But they've delivered this headline with sincerity, because they genuinely think it's a big hit on Netflix. This person is stupid. Really, really stupid. Or smart enough to make a bait headline that doesn't quite read like a bait headline. Because we're all pretty good at recognizing those these days, even if we can't have enough self-control to resist clicking on the bait in the first place, right? So the article opens. It's no secret to anyone that Madam Web wasn't a huge hit in theaters. In fact, the film's reception, both with the fans and the critics, has been disastrous. But here's the silver lining. The movie is now a hit on Netflix. No, it's not. Except it is, but it's not. Madam Web, which is Sony's latest entry in its Spider-Man universe, the superhero film following the Spider-Man character Madam Web. Look, I haven't seen the movie in full yet. I've seen the trailers and discussion about it and things like that. And from what I understand, the character of Madam Web in this movie shares precisely one thing with the character of Madam Web in the original source material. And that one thing is the name. Then his name's the stars, Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, blah, 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 blah. However, like many other failed superhero films, Madam Web has found success online after being released on Netflix. The superhero film just hit streaming services this week, and it's streaming on Netflix thanks to the deal the streamer has with Sony Pictures. That's just filling out a bunch of the article there. They had a word count to fill out. I remember school. Remember doing that in school? Just putting sentences where you don't really need sentences. Despite bombing in theaters, Madam Web took over Netflix's movie charts, webbing its way to the top of the list. The most watched movie of the week or whatever. During its theater run, Madam Web grossed only... Yeah, okay, so it's talking about their numbers here and how many millions of dollars it made and didn't make and how it didn't really make enough to cover its budget, blah, 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 blah. Failure of a movie. Even before Madam Web hit theaters, fans have roasted the film for its promotional photos and marketing. During the film's press tour, Sony reportedly was upset with Dakota Johnson, the star, as the studio rumoredly... That's not a word, right? Doesn't feel right. The studio rumoredly believed the actress was dragging the film. Yeah, she kind of was, because the only way you can have any self-respect if you're in a shitty movie is to recognize it's a shitty movie. Halle Berry eventually learned this, more than once, because Halle Berry's been in some catastrophically shitty movies, but specifically with Catwoman. Remember Halle Berry's Catwoman? Ugh, crying out loud. None of this, alongside the actual film, bode well, and its recent accomplishment on streaming led to some additional roasting. Under the news of the film becoming a success on Netflix, the X page, Twitter, at Spiderman_news with a Z, obviously a very official Spider-Man News Twitter handle, some of the comments noted why the film failed in the first place. One user noted, because no one wanted to pay a movie ticket to watch this in theaters. Wow, that's a galaxy brain prediction there. How did the film become such a disaster in theaters? Because nobody wanted to pay to see it in theaters. Somebody get this guy a studio contract. Could lead the way into the future. He truly, truly understands the audience. Why was the film a failure? in box office numbers because nobody wanted to pay to see it. Just give me a second. I've got to process. That's some fifth dimensional thinking right there. With another noting, so many victims, whatever that means, so many victims. That's the entire quote. So many victims. What does that even mean? Another person had a more practical approach, noting that this shows people wait until it comes to streaming since it's cheaper. Close, no cigar. This doesn't always affect reality, considering Dune Part 2 passed over. Yeah, okay, so it's just naming some other movies for the sake of search engine stuff, I suppose. Another fan weighed in, waste of time, with another agreeing. They say this movie is horrible. I'm not sure if that's true. I just wish I could sit through the whole movie to find out. Oh well, I'll never know. Others saw the film's success as... There's no context to any of these social media quotes. They're just pulling them out of their ass, just for the sake of bloating the article. Other news saw the film's success as a way to hope for a sequel. Let's go! With like 8 O's. Madam Web 2! Many exclamation marks. Wrote an excited fan. So far, there are no official plans for the sequel. Sure hope not. Although Venom got a sequel somehow, and that was a terrible movie as well. Just catastrophically bad. Probably get a Mobius sequel for crying out loud. So, let's talk about this and why I opened the video with saying it doesn't matter if a film is any good or not anymore for whether or not it gets considered a success. Because box office is only part of the story, and box office numbers have been... haven't really recovered very strongly after we all got told to stay home for a few years and people started watching movies at home and went, oh yeah, this is much better. But here's the thing. Absolute disaster of a movie as far as critical reception goes. Critics and the audience hated its guts. They thought it was just a terrible movie, one of the worst movies ever made. But in the end, none of that actually matters. But here's the thing. Madam Web on Netflix is not a success just because it's got a bunch of views. It doesn't make it a hit movie. It makes it a movie a lot of people are desperately, morbidly curious about because it was so badly received. Like, we all were exposed to the noise. Everybody online was dragging this movie. And even the star of the movie had very little good things to say about it. So, of course, no one's going to spend the kind of money you need to spend these days to go to the theater and buy theater food and sit in a possibly sticky chair and sticky floor with dubious amounts of people around you, whether or not they're loudly chewing or talking or interrupting, or whether there's a kid crying in the corner and people get up and walk across your field of view. It just there are so many things to dislike about the theater experience. But having such a high-profile movie, Spider-Man connected, Sony Pictures, massive disaster in critical reception, people are curious about it. How bad could it possibly be? Click! Having a lot of people curious about why the movie was hated so much does not make the movie a big hit. But none of that actually matters. Because services like Netflix don't care whether you like it or not. They care whether you watch it. Because every time you watch a movie, even if you hate watching it, like even if you are just watching it out of spite or curiosity or whatever your motivation is for watching it, it doesn't matter. All they care about is X number of people watched in the first week of release, in the first month of release. Because those numbers are things they can put on charts and go to investors and say, hey, check this out. Look how many people are watching stuff on Netflix. This is the audience size we have. Look at how many people are watching the new stuff as we put it on there. Here's the numbers for things that are premiering on Netflix in their first week. X number of views. And those views, by the way, are not even people who finished watching the movie. If you watch, I'm not sure exactly what the number is, because it might have changed since I last spoke to a Netflix guy about it. When Netflix first launched in Australia, I was invited along to the big launch because they were inviting a bunch of different media and social media and influencer types and YouTubers and all that kind of stuff. And many years ago. And I actually got to sit down at dinner and talk to one of the guys who was responsible for the algorithm. And I spoke to him about how the algorithm worked, at least back then. And one of the things that we talked about was, like YouTube, like right here, a view isn't someone watching the entire thing. It's someone watching it for X percentage or X number of minutes. And they don't really care whether or not you come back and finish it. So, people watching the first 10 minutes of Madam Web and going, oh, this is shit, off. I'm going to watch something I like. Still counts as a view for those charts I was talking about that they show to investors. Say, hey, give us money, we'll make your show, or give us money, we'll buy your show, we'll put it in our service, and this is how many audience members it'll be exposed to, and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't actually watched Madam Web yet, and I am curious about it. I really am. I want to watch it to find out how bad it could possibly be. I did the same thing with Venom. Like, I was sure I wasn't going to like Venom. I saw the trailers, and I went, why are you doing Venom without Spider-Man? It's just stupid. And they like the balance of humor and seriousness and the edgy darkness, but a PG rating. It's so, what are you doing? It's so misguided. But you bet your ass I watched Venom when it came to streaming. So I was part of that problem. And I watched the sequel, even though I didn't like the first movie. And the sequel looked even worse and stupider. And it was. Couldn't help myself. Self-control dissolved. Curiosity won. And that's what they're counting on, I think. So I am very curious to watch Madam Web, but I don't want to contribute to this problem. I know I won't like it. I know there's 2 hours of my life I will waste that I could spend rewatching something I already like or watching something new that I think I might like. Tell you what we'll do. I need some money right now. I will not watch Madam Web unless you people collectively donate to me. Let's pick a number. $2,000. $2,000. There we go. Now I can make some money off studios making horrible movies. That's how we're going to work this. It also means I have a valid excuse for not giving into my curiosity and watching it, because there's no way people are going to give me $2,000 to watch this movie. Like, don't get me wrong. A lot of you have been very generous in the past in helping me out when I've been in strife, but I'm not even pretending to call your bluff on this one. No one. You're not going to reach $2,000 to make me watch this movie. And I'm not using reverse psychology, I promise you. On my honor, this is not reverse psychology. I'm just explaining my thought process here. Set it at that number. It means I have a valid excuse for not watching this terrible movie, and we all live happily ever after, right? I'm smart. So no, Madam Web having a lot of people watching it on Netflix does not make it a big hit. It makes it a success for Netflix, possibly. We don't know what their deal with Sony is, how many views it needs to get, or how quickly it needs to get them for whatever licensing deal to count as worth it for the money people. But just being popular, or one of the most popular movies on the service in its week of release, doesn't mean people like the film. Doesn't mean it's suddenly got a huge fan base of people flocking to it and discovering what a majestic, hit this movie is. This is this cult classic film. There are a lot of cult classic films out there that didn't do well in theaters, that later found their audience on home video, even before the internet and streaming and things like that. Except I'm starting to suspect, with the number of truly terrible movies that get funded, that get pushed through, that get promoted, instead of buried somewhere, I'm truly starting to think that they're either targeting really awful movies or movies that are guaranteed hits. Nothing in between. Because if it's really awful, you can do what happened with Madam Web. Horrific numbers in theater, but it's such a big deal that it's so bad, people get curious about it on streaming and flock to it to see how bad it actually is and pump those numbers. Anyway, let me know what you think in the down below. Are they making movies deliberately bad just to take advantage of hate watching? I think they might be, or at least starting to think about it. I would be if I was a grey-faced suit without a soul in the movie industry. That's what I'd be doing. Make as high a profile thing as you can, as bad as you can, just to get attention. Because it doesn't matter what kind of attention is. The whole world has turned into 2-year-olds. Good attention, bad attention, do something deliberately bad just to have all the attention focused on you for the next 5 minutes. Draw on the wall and crayon. Swear. So long as the attention is all on you for those few minutes. That's all that matters to these people. Thanks to the patrons, of course. I'll catch you next time.